link to my website to download it. So the deck's kind of ugly. There's some slides, but they never put slides that people can read a lot of stuff on there. Well, you can, because it's kind of a reference as well. So this is kind of a brain dump. Basically, I'm going to get through 40 minutes of stuff in 30 minutes. There's actually probably, sure, be told maybe closer to 50 minutes in the deck sometimes. I usually have extra buffer stuff, so I'm going to like cherry pick material. If I start going too fast, let me know. And otherwise, I'm going to start blasting through the material. This is basically operationalizing InfoSec. A couple disclaimers. My views, not on behalf of my company. This one I put in case I get ranty. Sometimes people take the rants wrong, so no, it's not me trying to be smarter than everybody else. Most of the stuff here, when I'm highlighting what not to do that is stupid stuff that I've done myself already. So most mistakes I've already made myself as well. So it's not meant to come off that way. Jaded and cynical is just something I've been since I was in like 3rd grade according to my mom, so I can't really turn that off. So, all right, we're gonna have fun with the display today. That's fine, it happens now and then. Service management is basically taking a service-oriented approach. That's what ITIL is all about, saying that you provide services within your organization to the rest of the organization. This is geared towards if you're in a corporate environment. You know, you're the internal InfoSec team. You're providing services to the rest of the company. ITIL, I have my own definition of ITIL. My own definition is don't overdo it. Make sure everything's standardized and repeatable and that it scales. ITIL can make you make 500-page papers detailing every little thing you do. I'm more of a process and procedures type person where your process might have a bit of detail. Your procedures go down to the point where you just do screenshots because it's easier to keep that stuff up to date, how you're going to do things. Alphabet soup. ITIL, Six Sigma, Lean, NIST, COVID, Sabasa. There's all kinds of acronyms for all kinds of things. Don't get hung up on the ITIL. I'm surprised I still put it in the title. I looked at the title and I'm like, oh, I didn't take that out yet. ITIL is a great service delivery framework, but it can lead to where if you see like change management systems, where you have to do like 20 hours worth of paperwork to do one 5-minute change on a server, that's the bad part of it. So that's what I tried to avoid in InfoSec. This is, hold on, it's going to annoy me. I'm going to go this way. It'll annoy me less. Top down versus lateral. Bottom line, ITIL from the top down. Absolutely a great way to get ITIL through an entire organization. Will rarely ever happen correctly. More often than not, what I'm saying is you got to start with your own area. If you get your stuff together and other teams see what you're doing, they're going to want to compete with your team. Get it? You're part of IT still, hopefully, as InfoSec. Risk usually goes outside of IT. I've seen people put InfoSec in different parts of the company. Myself, I like making IT money, so I don't want to move off into the regular part of the business. I'll probably take a 30K pay hit the day that happens. But anyway, usually, you know, the old surrendering prayer thing. Do what you can do. You'd be amazed how much if your team has its act together as a cohesive unit and you're giving service offerings that are thought out, designed well, and at least executed somewhat consistently, other teams are going to want to copy you. They're going to say, well, I deal with the security team. What do? They hit me up and say, we want scope, purpose, assumptions. We lay that out first. Then we say, here's what we can do for you here. Oh, our policy says this, our standard maps back to this, and this leads to an exception form because you can't meet the standards. You might still get the project done, but now we're going to do our risk analysis process. You're doing it the same way every time with the same collateral, with the same logos. You ever notice when you buy stuff from someone like an IBM or someone like that, it's all logoized? They have people they pay $80,000 a year or more just to do logos and make their service offerings look the same. Building that collateral. Do the same internally the best you can using Office. Oh, this is just going to drive me insane all day. My apologies, I've never really run into this before, so I'm not even going to bother trying to figure this one out. 2 books, you can still see those. Visible Ops, kind of based on ITIL, kind of idealistic. This one's a story about DevOps. With all books, you don't want to necessarily do everything in the book that it says. I'm just saying in general, people should read those books. It would help them get their act together a lot. CMM, right? You got your 5 main parts. Initial, repeatable, define, managed, optimizing. You can look up any. I'll just apologize again for this. I'm not taking the time to troubleshoot this, see if it works now. Just keep clicking buttons. It's going to get fixed, right? If it was Microsoft, I would turn it off, power it off, and then turn it back on, and it would work. So, difference between Microsoft and Apple. Microsoft, power cycle, Apple, just keep clicking shit. There you go. That's the difference in a nutshell. Standard stuff with the CMM. Here's the fun stuff. So I took a challenge once. Well, I'm going to skip this one. I told you I'm going to go through quicker. Go to this one. Better slide. Vulnerability management. So I've really done this stuff to death for like freaking, since like Saint was out way back when, and Satan and all that stuff back in like the early 2000s. You really don't have anything documented. You're just kind of doing stuff sporadic. You don't really have a plan, basically. You just do it. Run a scan here and there, whatever. Now you're starting to say, I got some of it, Doc. Some of the scans run a pretty decent schedule when I remember to. There's a calendar reminder. It doesn't really schedule, just run automatically, right? Not really doing trend reporting, right? Haven't really started doing trusted scans yet, where you want to log in with credentials to get everything you can about a system when you're doing vulnerability scanning. I know, totally different topic as far as that could be a presentation in of itself, right? A lot of exceptions. I'm just scanning what I can, right? 3, you start getting where you're getting stuff documented, standardized, proceduralized, you're actually using it, you're giving data to the people that need it. 4 is where you're actually kind of actively maintaining your processes around the tool. Don't care what the tool is, whether it's custom written, COTS, whatever it is, you know. Now you're starting to get your hands around it where it's a process, where you have all kinds of processes around the tool, where even if you change the tool set out, your process has to adjust a little bit based on some of the features of the tool, but overall, you're in that zone. You're running a mature service offering. 5, perfection attained, go home. I've never seen anybody hit 5 on anything. I've seen plenty of people think they do. Come on, man, who's got time and budget for that? Realistically, you get all your stuff up in the 3 zone, you're doing pretty good. Good luck with that, even depending on how much stuff you have. When you start doing this based on a service, though, it will help you rationalize your tools and get rid of some of your duplicate tools and stuff like that. So it kind of helps you do that. So again, getting higher CMM scores. Integration, automation, documentation, standardization, repeatability, optimization, proceduralization. That's like a mouthful of stuff to say. This slide, fun one to write when you're buzzed on Jägermeister. Oh, yeah. That was a challenge. Then trying to read it back to myself and proofread it. Did I get that right? Quick maturity assessment. How operationalized are your offerings? What does that mean? All right, here's an example. One for vulnerability management. Who logs into it? Security team? Is that it? Fail. Server administrator should log into it. Desktop administrators should log into it. DBAs should log into it. Because if you have a tool that keeps the data there for them to see, maybe even let them run scans on their own dev and test environments or in their own lab environments, you've got that tool to where people that do the hands-on sysadmin stuff are also using your tool. It's also easier to get it renewed as well. Log management is a classic example. This is a long time ago. I actually went to a shop where the CISO said he didn't care if the server admin's got any value out of their log management tool. I'm like, what are you talking about? Logs are used for troubleshooting. You gather all of them in the Microsoft world, the system, application, and security logs. Make sure you're the one giving the troubleshooting tool to the entire company, then you're also getting your security benefit out of it. And it's going to be operationalized. People are using it every day for what they do to keep the lights on or make money, right? Not a quick assessment. If you're doing something like a top 20 assessment, I'm totally into the SANS top 20. I don't hide that fact. Then you can start doing where you're trying to do your own CMM. It's not precise. There's not math behind it. There's some things you can measure with math and some things kind of a gut feel. That slide I showed you earlier where it has the 5 buckets, make that for your environment. Make that for your different service offerings. Measure against your slide. So take it, customize it, copy it over, do it for different service offerings. Measure yourself against yourself, like for what you have on that slide, for what you consider mature for your environment. Kind of sounds like a cop-out consultant answer. There's no real other answer for that. You've got to take these kinds of frameworks and make them yours. My company, we do SANS top 20 heavily. We do add some custom controls now and then to the 20. You know, the sub-controls within each 20. We tweak a little bit for our company. We actually built in the CMM scores onto the SANS for ours. So, again, people, process, technology. Biggest pet peeve of the last 20 years of my life is everyone jumps straight to technology and InfoSec. I don't get it. And you talk to anybody, all vendors have the solution that's going to fix our industry, and they've had it for 20 years. I've been listening to it over and over and over and over and over, whether it's a host-based solution, network-based solution, data analytics solution, automation solution, provisioning and deprovisioning, control what gets on the network, control what doesn't get out of your network, watch what's going through your network. Been there, done that, CMO for 20 years. Here's the only thing that's changed, or the thing that hasn't changed. If your people suck and your processes are weak, fail. So why don't you just spend money training your people? Why don't you work into your processes good? And then snap in whatever tools you own initially. See if you can use more of your tools to help fill some of the process you're trying to do. That's how you rationalize tools and processes to do overall less work to get more done. Contrary, it's not buying Microsoft to do more with less. It's actually optimizing your processes and your people. So again, processes versus procedures. Processes are your pretty flow charts and bullet points. Procedures, go hardcore, screen prints. Anybody, people don't have time to do screen prints? Wrong answer. When you're doing stuff, I documented a complete vulnerability management program in less than a day. How'd you do that? I screenshot everything for the procedures. Hey, yeah, the software changed, you gotta take new screen prints. Again, all print screen, not really hard to do.
There's actually a capture tool in Windows 10 that lets you do that.
Yes, and in Windows 7. There's a capture tool built into Windows 7. Can't remember the name offhand, but it's there. Snap or something. Snipping tool.
No, I mean...
Install versus implementation. Another one of my pet peeves. Installing a product. Honestly, I can get an 8-year-old to install a product. I can go get a 6-year-old to watch a video and install a product. What does that even mean? That's usually people that are winging it, not reading the manual, figuring stuff out, probably didn't think through the DR of the situation. They got a tool in place, the tool dies and they can't recover it. That's a classic symptom of product install. Here, solution, implementing, planning, read the manual, do further research, figure out how you're going to structure things, the procedures and processes around it. How are you going to use it, right? This is a note I was told to put in by somebody I worked with in a past life. I mix product and process documentation. I'm kind of sloppy that way. The point I'm trying to get across here is, here's the kinds of documents you have. These are all like 1 or 2 pagers if you do them right. You can use pictures and bullet points. Your architecture, scope, purpose, and assumption, right? Roles and responsibilities, naming conventions. How are you going to maintain the product? A lot of people don't think about that. I have one vendor, did you PIM? Anyone know what password vaults are? Commercial password vaults, PIM solutions, they'll manage your local admin passwords. You know, if you get in a big enough environment, you'll end up with a dozen boxes. How are you going to maintain them? You're going to have to test your failover every month when you do your patching. I can tell you that right now. I don't care what vendor it is. If you haven't thought that through ahead of time, good luck, because I'll tell you what, the first time you take that puppy down, and no one can get the prod because you took both halves of the equation down, yeah, he's like, done. They will never forget that. You will hear about that a half-decade later. I guarantee it. You took out prod with your stupid password vault you made us use. Yeah, because you installed the product versus the solution. What are you trying to do? Control root level authority and tell where and when it's being used. Approach it with that. Again, updates, patching, count validation, backup DR. I'm kind of going very fast. You guys can see I'm kind of trying to get through as much of the material, give you as much value as I can in the time I'm working with here. Some of these you can read through on your own later. That's another slide that just combines them all. Words on roles. Biggest problem I've seen with roles. Who's responsible, accountable, consulted, or informed? Simple. A race is only as good as its socialization. If you write it on a piece of paper and throw that crap out through an email, good luck. All right? You got to go actually talk to people. Probably have to negotiate that with the people it affects. All right? You'd be surprised how many people skip that. It's like, wow, okay. Another one, solutions versus service catalog. Sometimes I've seen it combined. Sometimes people say, here's the 5 tools we run for you. All right, what's the 5 things you do? Vuln management, hardening, configuration management, right? It's your catalog. What do you do? Why do I pay you? What do I get from you? Go to a consultancy. I need a pen test. I'll have 1 page on their pen test brief. Do you have a 1 pager on all your things? Here's what we do for vulnerability management. Whether it's a new product or something new existing in the environment, here's what we do for you. Here's our service offering. This is why you pay us. This is what we're doing all the time. Right? Examples, incident response. You're going to end up with a ton of processes, checklists, and procedures behind that. Threat alerting for your enterprise. You might have some certain forms that you send off to people. You're going to have to know what teams you're engaging, and you're going to have a follow-up process. Thinking of it as a service makes you think of that. A lot of people, oh, alerting. We'll just send an alert out to everyone and tell them, patch your stuff. What does that even mean? For mine, it's, this is an out-of-band patch. We wrote our own out-of-band patch calculator. This is why you're hitting this threshold. We need these 5 teams to put this patch in. We're going to check with our vulnerability management tool. We're reporting to senior management. At the 30-day mark, you should be saturated. Workstations are 9 days. Servers are 30 days. They're true numbers for my environment. If they're not, we got a problem. Right? If it's an emergency out-of-band for internet facing, it's got to be going within 24 hours. By the way, we're running the scan tomorrow night to make sure the stuff's in place. Heartbleed comes to mind. That's a service from a service catalog, not a, hey, look at this here tool we installed. It tells us when we've had stuff and not. What does it even mean without anything behind it? Right? Keep an eye on your services, what your CMM level is for them. Just helps you keep moving forward, right? And again, when you're rationalizing your service offerings, it's the technologies and the processes. Sometimes you can collapse processes as well as tools. Everyone thinks it's just the tools for cost savings. Process are soft cost savings. They allow you to get into other areas that you might not have the time and money for otherwise, right? Purpose, scope, and assumptions, just a word on that, like web filtering, okay? Is it going to be agent-based or cloud-based? Is it only for company-based devices? Cool. Feel bad for you if you've got BYOD and people think that it's only on company-based devices or vice versa. Set your scope carefully. Contract laptops, are they subject to the web filtering? Oh, we didn't think about that. We bought an agent-based solution. We didn't set our scope. Oh, and then 3 months later, an executive comes up and says, we want you to cover contractors too. Set this in the beginning, document it. If scope changes, scope can change the implementation, etc. You can say, we made the decisions on the products we did based on who we were going to do this for. Enlist your dependencies. Proxies bring up to mind pack files. Pack files mean Active Directory works correctly. If your AD is crap, you better figure that out in advance or say, we're dependent on them. If they screw it up, it's them, not us. Right? Oh, and don't think that there ain't, blame games and the blame sessions happen in corporate America. Dock your stuff. Make sure you got your ducks in a row and agreed to. Requirements. A lot of times further on this, you have a policy that says harden your servers. You have a hardening standard that says do not put the root of a web server on drive C. There's a product that says my web group has to be on drive C. Boo-hoo, if not, the vendor won't support it, whatever. Leads to an exception where you track it and say the vendor won't do it. We're going to check with the vendor every 6 months to see if they will. Now move to the risk register so no one forgets about it. That's abbreviated ITIL. That's having your act together. That's doing the same thing every time and having a consistent way of handling things in your environment. These are just, everyone knows the potential impact slides. What is it, 10 million, 25, 75, and 100 million? Why did I put this in here? And then the likelihood, whether it's unlikely to likely. Here's why. The sky's falling, the world's going to end according to InfoSec people pretty much every day. We all know that's crap. The world ends on Twitter every 15 days apparently now. Basically, if you go to a risk meeting with the people that do risk for an entire company, especially a big multinational company, what you're going to find is these dots: geopolitical risk, hurricane wiping out a data center, whatever, changes in politics causing us to pay more taxes, whatever. You go to any one of those rooms I've been in, and I've been in some big rooms for some big multinational insurance companies, utility companies, etc. Then you'll see IT risk next to all the big dots, and then you'll see InfoSec. All right? Most of InfoSec's worst case scenario doesn't hit the top money, right? Look at Target. I made the joke. People are going, oh my God, Target. I did the day after Target was breached?
Shopping.
I went and shopped at Target with my debit card, like I care. So was everyone else. Is Target out of business? No. This helps keep you honest. This helps get you put it into business. These two matrices exist typically by your business risk team. They're not yours to make. They typically already exist. These exist at a way higher level in my company. Everyone already subscribes to those matrices. That's what we all use to report stuff. That normalizes the reporting across different types of risk for physical versus IT. Again, the usual decisions: mitigate, transfer, or accept. Zen. Accept everything. Deal with it. Right? Again, exceptions. Do you handle exceptions the same way every time? You have the same kind of form you fill out for the exceptions, the same kind of analysis. It runs into the risk register. Even if they're accepted, they're on the risk register, so you can say what you accepted. You get a pen test with 10 findings. All 10 findings should be on your risk register. If you accepted 8, mitigated 1, and 1 is still open, that's what's on your risk register. And you can say back when someone says, what did you do with them pen test results from April last year? Here's exactly what we did with them. So we do metadata to tag ours by pen test. See? We actually looked at it. We actually read it. We did something about it. We tracked what we did about it. Back to this, always have a plan. Checklists are good enough for doctors, pilots, and astronauts. They're good enough for us. Okay? Have a plan. Be able to, see this? Never do a POC until purpose, scope, and assumptions is done. How can you go look for a tool if you don't know what you're really trying to do? I know I'm making life boring. Crap. Now we don't get to play with cool stuff every day, which is what we all thought our job was in the 90s. Turned out it wasn't. Oops, we were wrong. We're actually supposed to mitigate risk, right, and be aware of business. By the way, geeks that try to say they can't do this, if you have a car and have car insurance, if you have a checking account, do not ever come to me and tell me you don't know business or risk. Period. My house flooded 4 times. Why didn't I buy the sump pump and dig one in for $6,000? Because the most damage I took was $1,000. My RTO is currently 4 hours. Yeah, I'm that much of a geek. I think of everything in terms of IT. It's not worth the money. The business case isn't there for you to put the sump pump in. Which actually, saving that money, did give me the money to get my newest acquisition for my hobby, and I got a nice Henry lever action. And I let my wife buy a nice, whatever kind of purse she likes now, Michael Kors or something. Ridiculously expensive. So, but anyway, that's business. And obviously risk is insurance. Whose car has a higher deductible? Mine. I'm on the road more, I get hit more. See how that works? You already know the stuff. Can't claim to be a geek and not know that if you actually have, insurance and own things and checkbooks. Branding. This one, see if we got the next slide. Oh, that was interesting. See this book? This book was one of the few ones that was a kind of a good eye-opener for me. Again, as with all books, don't agree with everything in it. All right? But it's a good book. It can be twisted for very evil purposes. I've seen people do that. Yeah, it's just bad. Oh, hold on. Branding. Consistent collateral. Services. Forms. Outputs. Make a logo for your team. That might sound cheesy. All the people you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with and millions with on their products, do this. The consultancies you hire do this. Why are you doing this in your company? Other teams will copy you. Trust me. And this is, I've seen this work too, right? You have perception branding as well, right? Quit whining all the time. The world can't end every day, right? That's the worst thing people do in security is they talk about anything in the world can be hacked. Excellent. Who cares? In fact, my basement could flood tomorrow. Okay, still not spending the $6,000 in the sump pump. Business case still isn't there. You know what happens if you whine too much and use FUD too much, right? You end up at the little kids' table. Yeah, enjoy your cake and ice cream, because that's where you're going to be sitting and you deserve to be there. You're always sounding like the panicky, whiny one. No one likes those people. You get in a room full of business people, you will alienate everyone quickly, right? And again, you have derivative FUD cells, compliance. Are we showing due care and due diligence? It's always going to come down to the more you can learn business. And that's why I said that other process, where you have the money tied into your process, it's going to make you look more responsible, for one, but also it'll keep your people be like, oh, you're more professional. People come to my team now, they know they're not going to get the panic rack. Hold that down! You can't have that run through the firewall. Wait, what are you guys trying to do? Oh, trying to do this and that for the customers. Oh, that's kind of cool. All right, so let's see if there's a way we can do this. Sometimes you have to mitigate risk where you can and accept it in other places. They know we're already starting that. We're starting that position. We're not starting the position of no matter what. No, here's the deal, the other way I'll put it. Whenever somebody tells me it's the security team's job to say no, I just want to smack them. I actually want to physically assault them. Done. I just want to slap them really hard, really loud, leave a big red mark. It has never been an IT security's job to say no. Ever been their job. It never will be. You are there to advise and consult so the business can make the appropriate risk-based and financial-based decisions, and whatever they decide on, shut up and implement it. As long as you've documented your stuff and you're showing due diligence that you've done your job correctly, why would you get emotional about it? The longer you live, the easier that gets. I still felt that way when I was in my 30s. When I was in my 20s, I'm not there yet. I'm in my late 40s. The older I get, the more that comes true. Don't take the stuff personally. Do due diligence. Take pride in your job and doing due diligence and making sure everything's done right. At the end of the day, if someone's going to make a boneheaded decision, but it's very well documented that you advise them not to make the boneheaded decision, right? There you go. Let it go. At some point, let it go. Okay? So, and that's part of your brand. Learning to let that go and not seem like the person that's always losing their temper. If you read the book, Phoenix Project, you'll see examples of that. Puts it very nicely. Very nicely. You're nodding your head, you've read the book, or, yeah. That John, the security guy, is like, oh, no, dude, way too personal. You know, he even ended up like that. It was, you had to read the book. But again, the other one that gets me is, you heard me, I'm having problems with this thing. And I make the observation, with Microsoft, I would turn the power off. With Apple, I just keep pushing buttons, right? Okay, here's the deal. All platforms suck equally. You're welcome. In case you didn't know that. I'm platform agnostic. I don't care. I don't have a favorite operating system. I like them all. I hate them all. I have a love-hate relationship with everything in technology, right? You can't play favorites in security. That's the point there. People are going to pull in new stuff. Sometimes they're going to go into areas that you're not familiar with, then get familiar with it. That's when you should actually be happy as a geek saying, ooh, I get to learn Android today. Right? I got an iPhone currently, had an Android before that. Why? Because I wanted to tear both of them apart as a user and see what the experience was like. Right? And actually this Mac, I'm not really a Mac person. The result of this MacBook, me shaming my mom for 3 years. Why do you own a MacBook? You never use it. Mom, all you do is email on it. Finally, she's like, I got another laptop. You can have that one. It's actually free. That's also a symptom of my, being married with kids. I don't have the money for a MacBook, so I had to shame my mom into giving me hers. So that's where this is. Wish I could say, yeah, that's it. That's how I got it. Then I reinstalled it and it gave me a new something to learn and use. And by the way, I'm really, really crappy at using Macs. That's why before, you didn't even see me try to troubleshoot. Apologize, move on, click buttons, because man, I'm like, I still haven't used this much. I only present off it, right? Another example I use on this, cloud. Guess what? It's entirely possible to do cloud securely. If you're worried about blind subpoenas, people subpoenaing your data without you doing it, you get hardware-based HSMs, keep them in your data centers, key the stuff up, you control the keys. It's doable. AWS, check them out sometime. Amazon, whew, wow, do they know how to do cloud securely. And when they say it's really the customer's fault, they know when and where and why it is. But the bottom line is, I see at first people going, cloud, you can't do cloud, it's insecure. Wrong. Don't be an amateur. You can do anything where your business needs to move. I'm going to cover the next even faster, but basic SOC needs, a calendar, a shared calendar, process docs, environmental awareness. You need to know what your environment looks like and how to keep that refreshed. Better if you can get dynamically building network maps from the network team if they have a product that does that. Just food for thought, because putting a SOC together, or just how your team's going to run itself, could be an operations playbook instead of a SOC at the top of the title. How do you get your act together and keep it together, right? Do you check your tools on a regular basis to make sure they need or work? Standard images, standard bootable tools, because sometimes you're on a corporate image, so you can't install all your tools, so maybe put jump servers up with your tools on them. Maybe you have standard bootable tools like Kali. Maybe you have actually persistent VM Kali images that you use that are in a certain area that you store them, right? How do you use your service accounts to keep all your credentials straight? Boy, there's nothing worse than a security team with an Excel spreadsheet with passwords. At least go to KeyPass. Come on, man. At least put a KeyPass database out there for you at first, right? SharePoint you can do a lot with. Yeah, I know. It's, I don't know, butt ugly, for lack of a better term. It's Microsoft, so it's got a certain amount of kludge to it. And there's people that make a living out of tearing it apart on pen tests, but sometimes that's all you have to live with. You kind of accept it and move on, lock down the permissions as best you can, make sure you're on the latest version and patches. SharePoint's getting better. You can actually do wikis inside of it, which makes it easier to dock stuff for ops quicker. I end up using SharePoint a lot. A lot of the companies I go to have Microsoft on the desktop still. File shares, again, interesting tool I just like to point out to people. This is an online one. Kanban, for where you just say what's in progress versus what's on hold versus what you've done. It's like putting things into 4 buckets. In other words, have a way to take your inputs in and not lose them, but one that doesn't nag you to death like calendar reminders can. Find something that works for you and your team. And that's one where you might start taking my first advice even a step lower. Start with yourself. Find something cool. If you find it works good, pitch it to whoever runs your team. Try to get your team onto it. When people see your team having their act together, they might want to copy that as well. I'm just skipping over this is an old slide saying you don't need a room with monitors in it to keep an eye on security. All your tools should be web-based. This is less relevant over time goes on, but I've been complaining about this since 2004, so I leave it in there because I like complaining sometimes, even though I just said not to do that. I get to do it when I'm talking. But yeah, so just make sure you can get to everything and get to it easily through the web. Outsourcing, I'm going to go one piece of advice against everyone always says, don't worry about the how, just worry about the what. That is the crappiest, stupidest advice. There was an insurance company that did literally a $1 billion outsourcing deal. I lived by that rule and learned how stupid it was. When you're outsourcing something, make them explain exactly how they're going to do it. They may not use your favorite tools if you're all tool bound up, but the process, the how, and what tools they're going to use and how they're going to use them. Dig in. Do not listen. There's a lot of consultants that'll even tell you, oh, just worry about what you're going to get, not how they're going to do it. Nothing could be further than the truth, because if you don't figure out how they're doing it, you're not going to get what you think. So even on the front end, make sure you understand exactly what they're doing. The other one I always build in, right to audit. Right? So any contract I have on that contract, actually I have to put into life a 10-year contract. They have to give the security team at a company I can't name read access to every security product for the life of the contract whenever they request it. Read access through the console, read access through the APIs, so they can keep an eye on them. By the way, that company really hated me for getting that in the contract, because now they can be checked up on for 10 years. Other one I'm going to point out, a last point here, people are still needed. I'm going to tie this back to a central theme of this. People, process, technology. You still need internal people to keep an eye on what people are doing, no matter how much you source. There's at least some people in-house. You should put money into your people. I go more in depth on that in a different presentation I give on training fail. But that's the thing that ITIL sometimes loses focus on. ITIL says process, process, process. Geeks say tools, 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 and they're both kind of wrong because it's first people, then process, then technology. People is where the branding comes in, where the communicating with other departments comes in, where the setting expectations and getting all the data on the who, what, when, scope, purpose, assumptions comes in. Then you build the process, then you worry about the tool selections or deselections or rationalization, etc. And I'm going to cut it there and finish on time. So any follow-ups, I'll be around out in the hallway. I kind of apologize for taking the entire thing here. I will go to the last slide real quick because there's something there. See, I didn't have that anymore. I always have them anymore. Derek.milroy@gmail.com. Twitter's @DPMilroy. And then there's the Google, where I'll throw the presentation up. I'm not going to lie and say it'll happen tomorrow because I'm like doing a 3-hour drive at the tail end of today. I won't get this up till Monday. Oh, and by the way, just so you guys know, and again, apologize for the little power swing was true. So my website looks really shitty. I don't care. It's a vehicle to give you my PowerPoints. Could care less. Hope it works. It works for you. It's a Google site. It works because I'm not doing it. We've all seen what I'm capable of with the projector thing, right? So it's not meant to be pretty. It's just a way for me to get material out to people. All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.